We have lots to discuss here in today's video, including some offseason trade speculation, focusing today on the New York Rangers. One New York Post article from Larry Brooks is suggesting that Chris Kreider's time with the team is coming to a close and is very highly likely going to be traded this offseason. Plus, there's been some talk around Peter Laviolette. A lot of people are quite, concerned over the comments he made to the media last night about not going into the dressing room after the game. We'll talk about what is common and what all that means for the future of that club, plus some trade speculation around Vancouver and one veteran player they may go after to kind of retool this offseason. Plus, speaking of the Rangers, could they make a big trade with the Seattle Kraken? There's been some suggestions that one of their top scorers could be somebody they target as part of a retool. Plus, Ivan Demidov is coming to Montreal. We have lots of other injury updates. Plus, could we see another top prospect join Carolina here soon enough? And a young prospect's also retiring. All that and more coming up next. So welcome back to another video here at Top Shelf Hockey. As I mentioned, we have lots to discuss in today's video. All kinds of news around prospects, trade speculation, very newsworthy day. Let's kick things off with the news we started talking about earlier today, which one of the earlier news stories that was quite substantial. Ivan Demidov is coming to Montreal. He has signed his entry-level contract. There was reports earlier this morning that he was released from his contract in the KHL and would be joining the Habs. We weren't sure exactly how quickly things would come together. So I put together a video talking about the fact he was definitely coming over, looked at some comments that he provided to local media on the release from the Russian team, and he's expecting to play in sometime during the regular season here before it's all said and done. Obviously, he's got a lot of work to do to get himself to Montreal. They need to get his work visa, and they had to get a contract done, which they've now done. He has signed his 3-year ELC. One of the interesting things, he's got all the top bonuses and top everything for rookies, but one thing I found very interesting is there's a $500,000 bonus if he wins the Conn Smythe. And you know what the Conn Smythe is? Playoff MVP. Should be very, very interesting. We know he'll be motivated to make a big impact, but just how impactful can he be right away? That's going to be the most interesting part of this. But I know Habs fans are delighted with this news. A big jolt of skill and talent coming to their club right before clinching a playoff spot and having a shot at the playoffs for the first time in a few years. So Habs fans are super excited around there. Flames fans are also quite excited. We got confirmation today that the Flames have officially recalled Zane Parekh, their first-round pick from the 24 NHL draft, who put up over 100 points in junior this year, has officially making the jump from junior to Calgary. His season is over. The Saginaw Spirit, which surprised me that they lost so early in the playoffs and that their season is over. So Parekh is going to Calgary. It has not been yet determined when or if he's going to debut at the club. He's definitely going to be around the team, training, practicing, kind of soaking it all in, what it's like to be a pro. I would suspect he probably is going to get into a game, but they may hold off where they're in such a tight playoff race. They may not throw the rookie in until they have a little bit better idea on their seeding that way, whether or not they're going to make it or not. And speaking of prospects, another major prospect might be joining the NHL sooner than later as well, and obviously coming from the same league and team as Demidov, and as Carolina Hurricanes top prospect Alexander Nikishin, who is working on making the jump as well. Of course, he is more senior there with the Russian club, has a lot of team records, very important piece there, and they are working on seeing if he can get the ELC signed with Carolina and be able to join the Canes as well. So we could be getting a big influx of rookies here to watch in the next coming days to make things interesting. Back to Demidov for 1 second as well. It is most likely Montreal plays tonight against the Red Wings. They get the Senators on Friday, and then I believe they're off until I believe it's Monday. So it's most likely that he plays next week. You never know. Maybe he plays Friday, but considering they need to get the work visa and everything kind of fast-tracked, probably want to get him into a practice or two. I don't know exactly. Friday at the earliest, but I think it's most likely that he debuts next week. But unfortunately, some other sad news, a prospect we're not going to be seeing is one of the top prospects of the Jets organization, former first-round pick, Chaz Lucius. I just saw the shocking news that unfortunately today he's announced his retirement from pro hockey. Chaz Lucius is retiring due to a medical condition, which is called Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, which affects the connective tissue that stabilizes the joints and organs. We know Lucius has battled a lot of injuries in his young career. And, he always thought he was just unlucky, he said, but turns out this condition is playing a role with it, and he's high risk to be injured, severely and continuously if he continues to play hockey. And he's been told by medical professionals that it's just not advisable for him to keep playing. So unfortunately, he's made the tough decision at a very young age, only into his early 20s here, that he has to retire. Chaz Lucius was, a player that the Jets had high hopes for. He came in to his draft year with a lot of skill, a lot of promise, a lot of talent. He was like in the middle of the pack first round, and he's not going to be able to put it all together, unfortunately, for Winnipeg. It's just more sad for him personally than the team, but the team has been working with him for some time, trying to figure out what to do, and this is the outcome. So certainly terrible news in that sense. You really hate to see young players have to retire before they really ever got started at the pro level. So terrible news on that front. Some other updates around the league when it comes to injuries, roster moves, etc. The Panthers have confirmed that they're going to be getting some players back into their lineup. I know the whole conspiracy that they were tanking to play the Leafs is probably really all for naught, to be honest. I don't really buy into that. But Barkov, Reinhart, and Forsling are going to be coming back into the lineup. They actually battle the Leafs tonight. But Sam Bennett, on the other hand, is going to sit out the rest of the regular season. Didn't really get into detail, but they said that he needs the rest. So obviously he's dealing with some sort of injury that they feel is better served for him not to be playing with, and or they're obviously in a good spot with their playoff spot already clinched. It makes sense to rest him up. So you won't see Sam Bennett till the playoffs. The Oilers today were able to recall Noah Phillip on an emergency basis. Unfortunately, they had to play short in the last game last night against the Ducks, but they were able to get a call up today after doing so. And the Avalanche have recalled Chris Wagner. Now, as I mentioned, we had a signing as well today. And this is not the only Habs news today. It was Ivan Demidov. Montreal Canadiens today also signed a 6'4" power forward, 19 years old, from the Western Hockey League, and that's Tyler Thorpe. Tyler Thorpe was a mid-round pick last year in 2024, a fifth-rounder, but he put up 27 goals and 52 points this year, and had a phenomenal Draft Plus 1 season. So the big power forward has been signed by the Montreal Canadiens for his entry-level contract, which will kick in next year. And of course, he'll likely go back to, he might, well, at least potentially could go back to junior and play his overage season, but he also is going to the American Hockey League on an ATO, amateur tryout, for the rest of this year. So another interesting prospect joins the Habs group of talented kids that are either there or on the way up. So certainly the future is bright in Montreal. Lots of playoff games tonight that have playoff implications. The Maple Leafs can clinch home ice in the round one with a win tonight against the Panthers. So they'll be guaranteed either first or second. In the Atlantic Division, they would not be able to slip down to third. If the Sens win against the Blue Jackets, then they're clinching their spot and they'll be guaranteed at least wild card one, if not third in the division. If the Leafs beat the Panthers and the Sens beat the Blue Jackets, Ottawa and Florida will then be tied. So it could get very interesting for positioning and who will play who down the stretch here in the last few games. Detroit plays Montreal. Montreal trying to keep the teams behind them at bay here. So big game there. Detroit absolutely needs to win. They need to pretty much win out anyway to get in. And where they're playing Montreal, the team that they're primarily chasing here, that would be a massive win for Detroit, and it would be a massive loss if they lose. So that definitely has major playoff implications around it. Now, as I mentioned, some offseason speculation. For one, the New York Rangers. We're going to start with a comment from Coach Peter Laviolette. The Rangers had another bad loss last night to the Tampa Bay Lightning, and Peter Laviolette made a post-game comment to the media that's gotten a lot of attention today and certainly got a lot of people riled up and saying he needs to go, needs to be fired, is he checked out? And here's kind of the story behind it. So Laviolette, post-game, was asked by a reporter, what kind of message do you give to the team after a loss like that? And his response was, I don't have a message. I don't go into the locker room after the game. Now, I think he probably needs to clarify that, and it's the choice of words that's gotten people up and at it on this. I mean, to be honest. So, for anybody who's played the sport at any level, I don't just mean pro. Well, obviously, I've never played pro, but when you're involved, and this probably applies to other sports too. This is not just a hockey thing. Most head coaches are not going to go into the room after a terrible loss like that. You're not. What are you going to say to the team? They know what went wrong. They know how it went, and whatever you tell them is not going to be absorbed. They are focused on other things at that point and their feelings and losing and all that. The coach will talk to the players a little bit later in a different setting once they've had a chance to recoup and kind of clear their heads. So the fact that Laviolette didn't go into the room last night, not really an uncommon thing at all. And it's nothing to be concerned about. It doesn't mean he doesn't care, and it doesn't mean he's checked out. But what he made it sound like is that he never goes into the room after the game. And I hope that's not the case. At the very least, coaches always go in after a win, and you pump them up. You talk about the things you did well. Most teams have a player of the game award and things that they hand out and things like that. So it's a whole different environment. But, I really think that the clarity here would be for people assuming he never goes in. And I can't say that he does or he doesn't because I'm not there. But if he doesn't, that's a problem. He is checked out, and maybe he does need to go. I mean, you can make other arguments, to be honest, why and how they're playing that probably he needs to go. But that's another topic for another time, because at this time, it looks like I put it at 50-50 at best that Laviolette is back. But we'll see. But on all honesty, if he just clarifies that he goes into a room after a win but not after a loss, that's completely common and not a big deal. Now, Elliotte Friedman also made mention as well that the team has been lifeless ever since things went public about Chris Drury wanting to move Jacob Trouba and Chris Drury, which obviously came early in the season. Trouba was eventually moved. We already knew about Trouba and all the stuff that went down in the offseason, but never came to be. So Trouba, blocked some trades, was still there. And, it's just things get off on a wrong foot. And you could make an argument that maybe things are the way they are because of how things were handled from the front office. I think it played a role. I don't think it's everything, no. But to say that some of the players are not giving you the consistent effort that you need, yeah, that's true. They're not. And I do think some of them have kind of lost their desire to help the franchise because they know what's coming and they know how the management feels about them. Now, is it an excuse? No, because you're being paid lots of money and big bucks. You should be playing harder no matter what. But we also saw an article today from the New York Post and Larry Brooks saying that he feels that Kreider's days are numbered. This is the final days of Chris Kreider with the Rangers. And I said before, I think based on how he's playing, that he needs a fresh start. He's been a beloved member of that team and franchise. But look at his numbers this year. He's nowhere near the player he was. And I'm not saying that I don't know that he can never be that player again. I just think he needs a new scenery, he needs a new clear head, and we'll see what happens. But, clearly, based on what everybody thinks, that Kreider's time in the Rangers is coming to a close. He's going to get dealt. He's probably not the only one. There was also an article I came across today separately from that saying that Jared McCann makes a lot of sense for them to target to retool, and that maybe they offer some younger players like Zach Jones or Brennan Othman. Othman Jones and a first-round pick was the suggested trade. I think that might be a little bit much, but something along those lines. Would McCann make sense for New York? He could. I wonder if he needs a fresh start too, because he's continuously dropped his goal totals. He went from 40 down to 26 or 29, and then he's under that this year again. So, it makes sense that it could be a target there. But I think the Rangers are going to be a very active team. We know their ownership is impatient. Chris Drury's already fired a coach, and Gallant brings in Laviolette. Will they allow him to go through another coach that quickly in his tenure there? I don't know. I think all hell could break loose when it comes to the Rangers, and we could see significant changes, but it's not going to be easy. There's not a lot of options in free agency that they can go out and target here. It's going to have to be via trade, so we'll see. Now, Thomas Drance obviously writes for The Athletic for Vancouver, suggests that the team could pursue Steven Stamkos as a trade option in the offseason. Now, we know that Stamkos has not had the best year in Nashville. The whole team has struggled, and a lot of people have been pointing out, saying that they probably do need to trade somebody in that veteran group. And, Marchessault and Stamkos names are the ones that keeps coming up. Although they have trade protection, they have some say where they can go. Will they even want to move? Nobody really knows the answer to that except for them. But Drance makes the argument for Vancouver that, for one, head coach Rick Tocchet, assuming he's still there, knows Stamkos and has worked with him before. He was an assistant coach in Tampa earlier in Stamkos' career, so there is that familiarity and that connection. The Canucks clearly need some leadership. Not questioning the leadership of Quinn Hughes as captain. I think he's pretty good, and he does a great job. but they need more than that. As we've seen with other teams, the captain needs help, especially with a younger captain. Look at Brady Tkachuk in Ottawa. I'll use him as a prime example. He's finally surrounded by enough veteran players to help him out between Claude Giroux and David Perron, etc., that they have a little bit more balance of leadership that way, and it makes a huge difference. And Quinn Hughes could use a guy like Stamkos, who's a former captain and a good team player that everybody seems to respect in the room and all that to have around. Now, clearly we don't know what's going to go down with Elias Pettersson. Is he going to get moved? We don't know. I don't think that a Stamkos trade would involve him. At least you wouldn't think so, but interesting nonetheless that a veteran target that Durant's is suggesting that Vancouver goes after. I don't know what it would cost. And Nashville may prioritize getting the cap space back as well, more so than actual physical assets. I'm not really sure what they would want. It's still early in the fact that the offseason is not officially here yet. It's still pretty close for some of these teams like Nashville, but a little ways to go just yet. So we'll see what happens, but could Stamkos be a Canuck next year? It's an interesting thing to ponder. Let me know your thoughts on all of today's news and rumors in the comments. We'll discuss further. If you're new to the channel, make sure you subscribe and stick around. We'll keep you up to date with the latest news, rumors, and analysis of all 32 NHL teams. Thanks for watching. I'll catch you next time.